What if the feeling of the divine is not only spiritual, but neurological? Throughout history, humans have described moments of transcendence, visions, revelations, overwhelming unity with the universe. But modern neuroscience asks a strange question. What if the human brain itself is wired to experience the sacred? Is believing God purely cultural? Or is something in the architecture of the mind pushing us toward the idea of higher beings? This question gave birth to a controversial field known as neurotheology. Before neuroscience even enters the conversation, we should ask a deeper psychological question. Why do humans look upward at all? Across cultures, separated by oceans and thousands of years, humans consistently imagine higher intelligences, creators, guardians of the universe. One explanation comes from evolutionary psychology. The human brain evolved to detect agency in the wild, assuming that something has intention, even when it doesn't, can save your life. A rustle in the bushes might be the wind, but if you assume it is a predator, you might survive more often. Over time, the brain developed what psychologists call a hyperactive agency detection system. We are wired to ask, who caused this? Who is behind this event? When applied to nature, storms, disease, the movement of the stars, things we can't control, the mind naturally begins imagining invisible agents. In other words, the search for higher beings may be a natural extension of how the brain interprets the world. Neurotheology examines what happens inside the brain during religious states. Researchers studying meditation, prayer, and mystical experiences consistently observe changes in specific regions. The temporal lobes linked to emotion and memory, the parietal lobes responsible for our sense of self and spatial boundaries, and networks related to meaning and emotional intensity. When these systems shift their activity, people often report feeling a presence, experiencing unity with the universe, losing the boundary between self and world, experiences that religious traditions interpret as encounters with the divine. One of the most famous attempts to test this idea came from a neuroscientist called Michael Persinger. Persinger developed a device informally called the God Helmet. Participants wore this helmet fitted with electromagnetic coils that produced extremely weak magnetic fields. These magnetic fields targeted the temporal lobes, areas associated with emotional and spiritual processing. Participants sat in a dark room while the helmet stimulated specific neural patterns. Some reported remarkable sensations, the feeling that someone else was present in the room, the impression of being watched, a profound sense of meaning or cosmic awareness. In some cases, participants interpreted the experience as spiritual or supernatural. However, the results were controversial. Some researchers were able to produce similar sensations and reproduce the experiment. Others could not replicate the effect consistently. The debate continues to this day, but this scientist's work raised a provocative possibility. What if the brain contains circuits capable of generating the experience of the divine? Interestingly, when we look at religions across the world, certain patterns appear again and again. Gods often share remarkably similar traits. They are typically described as all-seeing, morally aware, creators or maintainers of cosmic order, judges of human behavior. Even cultures that never interacted historically developed deities with strikingly similar characteristics. This raises an intriguing question. Are these similarities evidence of a universal spiritual truth, or do they reveal something about the architecture of the human mind itself? If billions of people imagine the divine, In similar ways, it may be because they share the same cognitive framework, the same brain, the same network. From the perspective of Carl Jung, the question takes another direction. Jung believed that religious imagery emerges from deep structures of the psyche, known as archetypes. Symbols of good, heavens, and revelations may not simply be cultural inventions. They may arise from the deepest layers of human mind. In this view, spiritual experience is not merely an illusion. It is the psyche expressing universal patterns that exist within every human being, as the collective conscious may give birth to these certain archetypes. Yet, belief in a higher power can also carry risks. If a person places complete responsibility for their life into divine hands, a subtle psychological shift can occur. Agency disappears. Decisions become passive. Instead of asking, "What should I do?" the person asks, "What will happen to me?" Psychologists sometimes refer to this as an external locus of control. When individuals believe that everything is determined by outside forces, fate, destiny, or divine will, they may stop actively shaping their lives. Faith can inspire resilience and meaning, but taken to an extreme, it can also encourage passivity. History shows examples of both outcomes. For some people, belief creates courage. For others, it removes responsibility. So, where does that leave us? If spiritual experiences correlate with brain activity, does that mean that they are illusions? Not necessarily. Every human experience has a neural signature. Love does, fear does, music does. The fact that the brain participates in spiritual experiences does not automatically explain it away. Instead, it reveals something more profound. The brain may not be the center of meaning, the creator of meaning. It may simply be the instrument through which humans perceive it. Perhaps the real question is not, is belief in God created by the brain, but something more mysterious? Why does the human brain search for transcendence at all? Across civilizations separated by oceans and centuries, the same impulse appears again and again, the search for something beyond ourselves. Whether that impulse is psychological, neurological, or spiritual, it may reveal one of the deepest truths about what it means to be a human. So, in conclusion, perhaps this curiosity to search for something greater than ourselves is simply part of being human. We look for meaning, we look for origins, and sometimes when life takes unexpected turns, for better or worse, we instinctively look upward and say, God did it to reward us or to punish us. Yet the human brain remains one of the greatest mysteries we know. There is still so much that we cannot fully understand, just as there is so much in life that we cannot control. But perhaps the most important thing is this: we must trust ourselves enough to take the first steps towards our dreams and ideals, because in the end, our actions shape the path we walk, and whether it is God, the universe, or simply the unfolding of human experience waiting at the end of the path, we must make the journey count.